All right, today we are digging into a tool that promises advertisers pretty much everything. But, well, it often ends up delivering a whole lot of frustration. I'm talking about Google's responsive search ads. So what is really going on behind that AI curtain? Let's get into it.
So let me just start by asking you a question. What if, instead of sitting down to write one ad or maybe 10 ads, what if you could create over 43,000 different versions of your ad, all at the exact same time? It sounds kind of nuts, right? But that's the fundamental promise of the tech we're exploring today. And yeah, you heard that right. Over 43,000. That's the mind-boggling number of combinations you can get from just a single ad setup. It's an absolutely staggering figure, and it really hints at the incredible power that AI-driven advertising is supposed to have. So let's start with the promise. What was Google's big idea with this new ad format? Well, it was all about completely changing the game for ad testing. The idea was to take all that tedious manual work off your plate and just let the machine learning take over. So what are they exactly? Responsive search ads, or RSAs for short, are basically Google's most flexible ad format ever. You know, back in the day, you'd write one single static ad. That was it. With RSAs, you just feed the machine a bunch of ingredients, all these different headlines and descriptions, and its AI automatically starts mixing and matching them, trying to cook up the perfect ad for every single search. And we're not talking about just a couple of options here. You can give it up to 15 different headlines and 4 different descriptions. Think about that. Those are all the creative building blocks that Google's AI gets to play with to build out thousands of unique ads. Now, on the surface, the whole process looks almost deceptively simple, and that's by design, right? It's supposed to be super user-friendly, hiding all of this incredibly powerful AI that's working just under the hood. So let's see how it's actually supposed to work. It's really just a few simple steps. You choose the ad type, you top in your headlines and descriptions, and then you just step back. That last step is where all the supposed magic happens. Google's AI is meant to take the reins, testing and learning, and figuring out what really resonates with people. Now, to be fair, Google does give you one major way to keep some control. It's called pinning. So let's say you have a headline that absolutely has to be in that first position, like your brand name or a description that has some legal disclaimer. You can pin it to a spot to make sure it always shows up exactly where you need it. It all sounds pretty amazing, doesn't it? A simple setup, endless A/B testing, and a powerful AI doing all the heavy lifting. It really does sound like the perfect automated advertising tool. But is that what's really going on when people start using it? To answer that, we're going to look at an analysis of over 5,000 ad copies that were run using RSAs. So this isn't theory anymore. This is what the cold, hard, real-world data is telling us. And what they found was, well, let's just say it was a little surprising. And that brings us to the real meat of this, the reality check. Because this analysis uncovered 7 pretty harsh truths about what actually happens when you hand the keys of your campaign over to Google's RSA algorithm. The first 3 truths are all about a really fundamental problem, just getting your ads to perform at all. The analysis found that even when ads were approved, they often struggled to get any impressions or clicks. If you added a new RSA to an existing campaign, it would barely get served. And maybe the biggest kicker, the AI didn't test all your headlines and descriptions equally. It would just pick its favorites early on and stick with them, which kind of defeats the whole purpose, right? And to show you just how serious this can be, check this out. The analysis found real-world cases where an older ad format would get thousands of impressions, while a brand new RSA in the very same campaign would get basically nothing. The ad is live, but it's effectively invisible. Okay, so beyond just not getting seen, the next set of problems are all about control and creativity. The system can actually stop showing your ads if it thinks some of your headlines are too similar. You get zero visibility into which combinations are actually working, and a ton of advanced features that advertisers rely on, like countdown timers, nope, not supported. And maybe worst of all, you can't tell a cohesive story because every single headline has to be able to stand on its own. This total lack of visibility leads to what the analysis perfectly describes as a state of confusion and uncertainty. You've given the AI all these amazing ingredients, but you have no earthly idea what recipe it's actually using to bake the cake, or if that cake is any good. All right, so after all of that, what's the big takeaway? With this huge gap between the promise and the reality, how are you supposed to navigate this powerful yet obviously flawed tool? I mean, when you put it all side by side, the difference is just stark. The promise of endless testing turns into a black box where you can't see the data, The promise of control is seriously undermined by losing key creative features. And the promise of peak performance? That's challenged by the simple fact that your ads might not even get seen in the first place. So we finally land on the big recommendation from this whole analysis. And it's not to just abandon responsive search ads altogether. Instead, the advice is to treat them like an experiment. Start using the format, get a feel for its weird quirks, but definitely don't go all in and replace your entire strategy with them just yet.
And really, this leaves every single advertiser with a huge strategic question to answer. It's this constant tug of war, right? Automation versus control. The technology is incredibly powerful, no doubt, but it demands a trade-off. And so the question you have to answer for your own campaigns is, what's the right balance for you?